Good morning, dear students. Once again, I welcome you to bio class where we were about to study pollination and fertilization. So in our previous class, we have seen the definition of pollination and the three principal ways how the pollination occurs, like autogamy, geitonogamy, allogamy, etc. And we too have seen the kinds of pollination. There were two types of pollination, that is self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination's definition we have seen and how it was occurring, what are the advantages and disadvantages of self-pollination. In today's class, we'll see about the cross-pollination. So what is cross-pollination? Cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen from the anthers of flowers of one plant to the stigma of a flower of another plant of the same species. This means this is also a transfer of pollen grains, but here the anther of the flower of one plant will be transferred to the stigma of another plant. Do you get the point? But here the species should be same of both the plants. If it is to be transferred, then if it is in a China rose, then the other plant should also be a China rose. That is what we call it as cross-pollination, but not in itself, to a different plant which is beside it. So what are the advantages of cross-pollination? So the first advantage of cross-pollination is the offspring which are given are healthier than the self-pollinated flowers. That's why the offsprings are more healthier. The seeds which are produced are abundant and viable. And new varieties may be produced by cross-pollinating two different varieties of the same species or even the two species. So these are three advantages of cross-pollination. Disadvantages of cross-pollination. The pollination is not always certain because some pollinating agent is always needed which may or may not be available at the proper time. That is the first disadvantage. Always you cannot see an agent to pollinate. So it's a disadvantage. And the pollen has to be produced in large quantity to ensure the chances of pollination, which means a lot of wastage of pollen. That is also a disadvantage. And the third one is the process is uneconomical for the plant because the flowers have to be large, colored, centered and have to produce nectar. And all these for attracting the pollinating agents. These were the advantages and disadvantages of self-pollination and also cross-pollination. Now let us see the difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination, which are summarized in table 5.1. So here it's given that self-pollination is a transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the same flower, which is also called autogamy, whereas for cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of different plants and of the same species. That is called allogamy. For self-pollination, no external agency or agent is required, but for cross-pollination, an external agent is a must. And for self-pollination, male and female parts mature at the same time, whereas for cross-pollination, anther and stigma mature at different times. The self-pollination can occur when even when flower is closed, but for cross-pollination, it occurs only when the flower is open. That is also difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination. In self-pollination, it preserves the parental character or hereditary characters, whereas in cross-pollination, you can alter the characters. It does not preserve any parental character. For self-pollination, new varieties are impossible, hence young ones cannot adapt to changed environmental conditions. But for cross-pollination, offsprings are healthier to adapt to environmental changes. And new varieties are not possible in self-pollination, whereas new varieties can be produced in the cross-pollination. So these are some of the differences between self-pollination and cross-pollination. Our next topic is nature favors cross-pollination. So the vast majority of flowering plants are cross-pollinated, and some of the various devices or the conditions which favors this cross-pollination are given as follows. These are unisexuality. The flowers may be either male or female, and they may be born on separate plants, and in this way cross-pollination is only possibility. And this type of pollination you can see in the plants of palm and papaya. Papaya usually has separate male and female trees, but less frequently there may be also a hermaphrodite tree bearing both kinds of flowers, either both the male and female. In cucumber and gourd, etc., the male and female flowers may be born on the same plant. This is what we call it as unisexuality, single sex. Dichogamy. It means the different timings of maturation of androecium and gynoecium. So, in many bisexual flowers, the anther and stigma of the same flower mature at different times. That is what we call it as dichogamy, and it's the definition of dichogamy. In some plants, anthers of the flower mature earlier than the stigma. That is called protoandry, because the anther matures first. Pro means first, protoandry. Example is bhindi, sweet pea, salvia, sunflower. Whereas in some other plants, the stigma of the flower matures earlier than the anther. That is called protogyny. Andry means androecium, gyny means gynoecium. Gynoecium is a anther. So, here the stigma of the flower matures earlier than the anther. Stigma is the gynoecium. So, here first the gyny is maturing. So, it is called protogyny. It is example you can give of custard apple and people. Now, self-sterility. This is a condition in which even if the stigma receives pollen from the anther of the same flower, the pollen fails to undergo further growth. That is called self-sterility. That means it cannot undergo fertilization. In such cases, only the pollen from the other plant of the same species can effectively complete the process of the setting of the seeds. For example, ray florets of sunflower or orchids are they self-sterile plants or flowers. Hercogamy. Hercogamy means it's a mechanical or structural barrier. So in some flowers, the pollen of a flower cannot reach the stigma of the same flower. For example, a hood covering the stigma acts as a mechanical barrier in pansy flower, iris, etc. That is what we call it as hercogamy. That means a barrier is there so that the pollen cannot fall on the stigma directly. That is what we call it as hercogamy. Heterostyle. In such flowers, the stigma and anther grow at different heights. It grows at different heights and it will not favor self-pollination. So this is also a type of cross-pollination which nature favors. For example, you can see this in primrose, oxalis, etc. So these are the 5 conditions for which the cross-pollination is most favorable. That was unisexuality, dichogamy, self-sterility, hercogamy and heterostyle. Now we'll see the agents of cross-pollination. There are 2 commonest agents of cross-pollination such as winds and insects. But some flowers are also pollinated by certain animals and birds like the squirrels, bats, etc. or even by water in case of some aquatic plants. And each category has some special features to promote the chance of pollination. They are called as the agents of cross-pollination. So, let us see the different agents of cross-pollination. Insect pollinated or entomophilous. That means those who are having the affinity towards the flowers, like the insects. So, insects it is called entomophilous. Flowers usually have the following characters. Those flowers which are pollinated by the insects, they have such type of characters such as flowers are large, they are usually brightly colored to attract the insects, they emit the scent for attracting the insects, they produce the nectar which is a food for the insects, and the pollen grains are sticky or spiny to enable them to be carried by the insects easily. And the stigma is, the flowers tend to be in clusters or in groups to make them conspicuous, especially in the case where individual flowers are very small. For example, in case of dahlia, they are in clusters. Now, the wind-pollinated flowers are called anemophilous, or those who are pollinated by wind, they are called as anemophilous. For example, maize. Here they have special features such as the flowers are small, They are usually not brightly colored and often dull green. They do not produce any scent or nectar. The stamens are long and hang out of the flower to be exposed to the wind. The anthers are large and loosely attached to the filaments so that the slightest wind may move them. Pollen is produced in very large quantities. Pollen grains are light, dry and smooth so that they can easily be carried away by wind. And the stigmas are feathery and hang out of the flower to trap the pollen grains. So these are some of the character which a plant which is to be pollinated by wind should have. Next is our water pollinated, which is also called as hydrophilous. And these are found only in the aquatic plants. And what are the characters do they have? It is like pollen grains are produced in large numbers. In some plants, the pollen grains have a specific gravity which is almost equal to that of the water so that they remain floating below the surface of water. In some cases, male flowers are such that they float on the surface of water till they meet a female flower. So, for example, you can give of Vallisneria. These are the flowers where the male flowers are floating until and unless they meet a female flower. Ornithophily. Ornithophily means the flowers which are pollinated by birds. For example, Bignonia, Canna, etc. Another is Elephophily, which is the pollination affected by elephants. And Elephophily is found in Rafflesia, whose flowers are very large and are found at ground level. The pollen grains of one flower get attached to the feet of the elephants and may be carried to the stigma of another flower when the elephant is tramping by the feet. That is what we call it as Elephophily. Now another term is there which is called as artificial pollination. What does that mean? Artificial means here the human being is involved. When man himself transfers the pollen to the stigma, it is called artificial pollination. In the ancient civilization of Babylonia, it was a common practice to sprinkle male flowers of palms on the female flowers. And of course, at that time, they neither knew the sexuality of palm flowers nor anything about pollination, but still they were practicing. That is what we call it as artificial pollination. Whereas in modern times, artificial pollination is a standard practice adopted by plant breeders and scientists in their efforts to evolve new varieties. So they remove the anthers in young flowers and cover these flowers with plastic bag. Later, they pollinate such flowers with the pollen from the plants of the desired variety. That is called artificial pollination. And this is not done naturally, rather by the involvement of human beings. That is what we call it as artificial pollination. Let us see some examples of pollination. First example is our insect pollinated sweet pea. Here the insects such as bee alight on a conspicuous corolla. The bee thrusts its long tongue in search of nectar. And in this struggle, the wing petals of the flowers are depressed. The wing petals along with the keel petal are forced down with the stamen and stigma which touches the underside of the body of the insect. If this insect has already visited another flower, it may have some pollen grains sticking on the body. And the pollen which is now transferred to the stigma of this new flower is thus affecting the pollination. When the insect flies away, it may in turn carry some other pollen of this flower to the other similar flower. So, if cross-pollination does not take place, there is every chance of self-pollination in this case. That means, if anyhow cross-pollination is not done, self-pollination will be must, since both the stamen and carpel are enclosed. So, this is a first example of pollination due to insect. For example, the sweet pea. Now, the second example for wind-pollinated plants like the maize is pollination brought by the wind. As the wind blows, the pollen from the outwardly hanging anther, which is blown away easily because of the anthers are so loosely attached to the filament that the slightest wind will shake them. So the pollen blown away by the wind fall on the feathery stigmas of the female flower, which have a large surface for this purpose. And the male flowers mature earlier than the female ones, so that there are less chances of self-pollination. So here also wind is responsible for the pollination in maize, which is having a very less chance and a loss of anthers or the pollen grains, not the anthers but the pollen grains. So here we completed about the examples of pollination. Next class we will see the fertilization. So till that, hope all would have understood, and we'll again go through the textbooks, and if any doubts please get ready to ask in the next class. Bye and have a good day.